Welcome back, lost travelers. It seems you found your way back to me once again. I am Dr. Whisper, and it looks like your next appointment has just begun. So, pour yourself something strong, grab a snack and settle down by the fire. You're going to need your strength where we're going. What lurks in the shadows beyond our understanding? What creatures slip through the cracks of scientific classification, existing in that twilight realm between myth and reality? Today, we're diving into 3 absolutely chilling cryptid encounters, real stories from real people who came face to face with the unexplained. These aren't campfire tales or urban legends. These are documented encounters that left witnesses forever changed. So turn off the lights, lock your doors, and let's begin. Our first story takes us to the dense forests of northern Minnesota in February 2019. Sarah Mitchell, an experienced wildlife photographer, was on a solo expedition to capture images of winter wolves. She'd been tracking a pack for 3 days, camping deep in the Blackwood Forest, a place the local Ojibwe community had warned her to avoid after dark. On her 4th night, everything changed. Sarah had set up camp near a frozen creek, confident in her experience and survival skills. Around 2 a.m., she was jolted awake by a sound she'd never heard before, a shriek that seemed to blend human screaming with animal howling. It echoed through the trees, making the hair on her neck stand straight up. She grabbed her flashlight and scanned the darkness. That's when she smelled it, a putrid stench of decay and rot that made her gag. Something was circling her tent, and whatever it was big. Through the tent fabric she could see a shadow, but this wasn't the shadow of any animal she knew. It stood upright, at least 7 feet tall, with impossibly long limbs that seemed to bend at wrong angles. The shadow moved with a jerking, unnatural gait, as if it were learning how to walk. The highway was empty, as it usually was at that hour. Jake had driven this route hundreds of times. He knew every curve, every mile marker. But on this night, something was different. Around mile marker 47, his headlights caught something standing on the shoulder of the road. At first, Jake thought it was a bear standing on its hind legs, but as he got closer, his blood ran cold. This was no bear. The creature stood at least 7 feet tall, covered in dark brown fur. But it was the shape that made Jake's heart pound. It had the body of a muscular man, but its head was unmistakably canine. A wolf's head, with pointed ears and an elongated snout. And its eyes. When his headlights hit them, they reflected back with an amber glow that seemed almost intelligent. The creature turned to face his truck head-on, and then it did something that made Jake slam on his brakes. It smiled. Not a dog baring its teeth, but a deliberate, knowing smile that showed rows of sharp teeth. Jake sat frozen, his truck idling on the empty highway. The creature dropped to all fours and began circling his vehicle. It moved with a predatory grace, muscles rippling under its fur. Jake grabbed his CB radio, but it was just static. His cell phone showed no signal. He was alone with this thing. The creature completed its circle and stood up again, this time placing one massive, clawed hand on the hood of Jake's truck. The metal groaned under its weight. It leaned forward, peering through the windshield directly at Jake, its amber eyes boring into him. Jake described what happened next as the most terrifying moment of his life. The creature opened its jaws and let out a sound, not a howl, not a growl, but something that resembled human laughter mixed with a wolf's snarl. It was the sound of something that understood it was frightening him and enjoyed it. Then, as suddenly as it appeared, the creature dropped back to all fours and bounded away into the forest with impossible speed, disappearing into the darkness in seconds. Jake sat there for 10 minutes before he could bring himself to drive away. He reported the incident to the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources, but they found no evidence of any animal matching his description. However, his dashcam footage showed something disturbing. A dark shape on the road and clear scratches on his hood that experts couldn't explain. The metal had been dented by something with incredible strength. Jake still drives trucks, but he refuses to take Route 18 at night. And he always keeps a loaded rifle in his cab now, not that he thinks it would help against something like that. Our final story takes us to Fresno, California in November 2021. The Martinez family had just installed security cameras around their property after a series of break-ins in the neighborhood. What their cameras captured would make them wish they'd never looked at the footage. At 3:17 a.m., their motion sensors activated. The next morning, Rosa Martinez checked the footage, expecting to see a raccoon or stray dog. Instead, she saw something that made her call her entire family to watch. On the grainy nighttime footage, two small figures were walking across their front lawn. But these weren't children or animals, they were something else entirely. Each figure appeared to be about 3 to 4 feet tall, consisting almost entirely of pale white legs, with very small torsos and no visible arms. They moved with a strange, flowing gait, their leg-like appendages seeming to billow like fabric in wind, yet clearly supporting their weight. The Martinez family watched in disbelief as these creatures moved silently across their property, passing directly in front of the camera. At one point, one of them seemed to pause and turn toward the camera, though it had no visible head or face, just that small torso atop those impossibly long, pale legs. The footage lasted only 47 seconds, but it was enough to terrify the entire family. When they posted the video online, they were shocked to discover they weren't the first to see these creatures. These beings had been dubbed Fresno nightcrawlers, and similar sightings had been reported in the area since 2007. What makes the Martinez case particularly disturbing is what happened afterward. For 3 consecutive nights, their cameras captured the same figures returning, always around 3 a.m. Each night, they seemed to move closer to the house. On the 4th night, Rosa's teenage son reported waking up to see one of these creatures standing outside his bedroom window, its pale form barely visible in the darkness. The family moved out within the week. They never returned to that house, and they never publicly shared the final night's footage. Rosa would only say that what appeared on that video was not meant to be seen by human eyes. 3 encounters, 3 different cryptids, 3 lives forever changed by coming face to face with the unexplained. Were these creatures undiscovered species, interdimensional